Great. Welcome back to this September 26, 2023 meeting of the school committee. We are a little ahead of schedule, so we're going to, we can start with the consent agenda. And there's meeting minutes, a couple warrants, budget updates, status of general funds, an acknowledgement of review and continued non-disclosure of school committee executive session minutes dated June 15, 2023, June 20th, 2023, and August 7th, 2023, under the open meeting law. There also, you should see in your packet, a citizens activity form for a new member, resident member, actually student, right?
Yes.
As appointment to the town diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. So that's Ankit Panda,
Yeah.
Panda, as an alternate member for a term expiring September 12th, 2026. And just a reminder, that's a joint appointment with the select board, so they already approved. And thankfully, we just didn't have to have a joint session for that. And then also on consent agenda would be a vote to establish a later school start time subcommittee. So to refresh everyone's memory, that was part of our school committee goals. And we've had interest from Catherine, Chris, and Bill. So all of that would be part of the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion.
Motion
approved.
Oh, go for it, Bill.
Yep, motion approved.
Okay,
Or
Bill?
no, motion.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Catherine. Any comments, questions on all of that I just shared?
There's a lot in there.
Good? Okay, great. And I'll vote then, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Great, unanimous. Whew, a little out of context today. All right, so we're still ahead of schedule, so to preserve the 7:05 public comment, we can jump to the MASC conference delegate business item, which was scheduled for 8:35. So that's just some sort of paperwork action that if there are members that attend the MASC-MASS joint conference in November, we can appoint a delegate to speak for us in the resolutions committee. And I think we have 3 members attending this year, Chris, Catherine, and myself. And are you still?
We're actually both going too.
Oh,
Mhm.
great,
Nice.
look at that.
Oh, no, we're gonna go, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So there's gonna be a good showing from Westford, which is great. And we need to nominate a committee member to be our 2023 MASC delegate. Any volunteers?
Feels like the Hunger Games. The tribute. I have no problem. I did it last year. I'm happy to do it again, unless you or Chris, obviously.
I'm okay with what, I can do it, I can let you do it. Isn't that my
Great.
typical
I
stance on
nominate
this?
Catherine
Yeah.
Clear.
I second that.
Great, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. And you'll be getting in your mail, all of us get, this handy conference book. And as part of it, it does walk through all of the resolutions that are proposed by member districts for consideration at this meeting. Historically, we just have our interests represented by our delegate, but if there's something in that list that you want to see discussed and have the committee take an official position on, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll get an update when we get back from November.
And that would have to be in the next 2 meetings.
Correct.
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
Yep, that sounds right, thank you. All right, 7:02.
Going too fast.
Sorry. That's probably,
Have people
have-
logged in?
do we have anybody in Zoom? Since we have nobody in the room? Okay. We already did the pledge of allegiance. I'm gonna go with, this is good for public comment. Yep.
Maybe remind people.
Yes, thank you. Another reminder, if you just joined us, that we are recording and being broadcast on WestfordCAT. And next would be public comment. A reminder for public comment for any item or topic on or off the agenda is always near the top of the agenda for individuals to share their thoughts. We limit that to 2 minutes per person. Please use public comment even if you refer to something later on in the agenda. And virtual public comment would be available through Zoom, and you can raise your hand, you'll be promoted, or in person at Millennium, Conference Room B. Okay, great. Now we will move on to informational updates. Seeing no public comment. So,
All right.
Superintendent.
So we have a bunch of things we were going to share with you. The first thing I wanted to share was that we learned this last week that one of our seniors, Jack Whitmans, he actually received something that is quite phenomenal. The AP, the College Board reached out to us to let us know that he is one of 23 students in the world who received a perfect score on his AP Chemistry exam.
Really?
Yeah, and so I wanted to share that with you today. Isn't that cool, right? I mean, it's like, and what they said is that, you know, I mean, I don't know like what a real perfect score means in their world because it's on a 1 to 5 scale. But what they said was that these 23 students received every possible point, which to me sounds
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
a perfect score.
Yeah, every single question, it's
they,
correct.
They received every single possible.
Yeah.
So what we thought would be nice would maybe bring Jack and honestly Mr. Tim Niddle too, who's the AP teacher. They took the class last year, maybe to bring them to a future meeting and recognize them, because that's kind of, I mean, 1 out of 23 in the world.
Is there an award with this, like, or is it just, it's
I
something
think
that the
that's
board
bragging
kind
rights
of
at this
is
point. I
bragging?
can imagine that they're, the college board isn't one to like throw out additional
That's interesting.
stuff. So I thought that was really cool. So that's exciting. Another thing I just wanted to, he's in the next room, but I always like to make sure to acknowledge the great work that Nick Woodbury does. Specifically, he produces the video updates that I do, and he makes them look so much better than they really should look. Even down like the last one where I talked about the calendar, like he really took the calendar and like he did all that, you know. So I just think I just want to thank Nick and just again give him the credit for that because he does a fantastic job. A question came up earlier. Some school committee members had shared feedback about maybe some concerns with our Power School updates over the summer and the way that impacts communication for families. So I thought it'd be good to just kind of share with everybody right now a little bit of what happens here. This year, DESE, every year we have to roll over our data. It has to be certified by the state before we can roll into the next school year. And the Department of Education, their deadline this year was August 18th, super late in the summer, which only means that they weren't necessarily in crisis to help us with different issues that we were having with iPass to Power School. And so this was our first year with Power School, and there are natural differences in the way in which the data is, I guess, seen. Kathy, is that the best way to say it? I mean, like, there's going to be some glitches. The way iPass might call something this and Power School might call it that, and the state wants it to just be this one other thing. So we get all these error reports when we're trying to upload this data. Bill's nodding because he knows this.
Exactly where you are.
And it takes a while to get all that. The perfect storm happened for us is that it was our first year with Power School, but also our representative from DESE retired and they didn't give us a new one. And we also had just hired a brand new data specialist at the end of the year. So I wanted people to know that if there were any concerns with communications, that we've ironed that out moving forward. But I just thought we never really had talked about that, so I was just going to share that at this moment in time. And then you had a couple.
Sure, I have a couple updates as well. In late August, we were notified that our pre-K to 2 humanities curriculum coordinator resigned. And quite a challenging time to resign in the 3rd week of August, but we did post the position, even though we knew that would be a challenge. We interviewed several candidates, and our selection committee ultimately decided that we would not move forward with appointing any of those candidates at this time, but we would repost in the spring for the position. And so in thinking about how we would support the important work that the curriculum coordinator does do for this school year, we did meet with the 3 building principals at the pre-K to 2 level, as well as Magali Ronan, and had decided that We would really be focusing on the ELA curriculum because we have some very big initiatives that are happening at that level, primarily the UFly implementation this year, as well as the rollout and full adoption of the EL curriculum for next year. We are going to post a couple internal stipend positions that would be available at the Miller School, Robinson, and Nabnasset. What we're looking for is a leader within our current professional staff who really do demonstrate a full understanding of the science of reading and can help us to just move us forward in terms of scheduling our curriculum meetings that are taking place, our professional development, staying in line with what's happening at the 3 to 5 level. So we really see this position as working closely with the building principals and Magali Ronan, as well as the 3 to 5 Erin Hogan's humanities curriculum coordinator position. So that is our update right now for that position. Also, Gerard Coughlin, the director of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning, provided several updates to us today that he wanted us to share. And one is that in collaboration with the CPAC, they are going to, well, he's going to start having office hours. It was a recommendation that came up last year from the CPAC. And so every Thursday throughout the school year, parents will be invited to sign up for an individual 20-minute session with Gerard Coughlin. And if you want to take advantage of this opportunity, you need to go to the website. It's quite easy to go to his department website, and in blue there is a link that will just bring you right up, and you can schedule one of 3 slots each week. He is going to rotate those, so some will be in the morning, some will be in the afternoon, if that is convenient for families. And he wanted to extend a big thank you for the CPAC members for bringing this suggestion to his attention.
Did you say, are this already virtual?
It is virtual right now, so the link is live.
No, I mean
The
like.
meetings aren't, the meetings could be,
Oh,
I
oh,
think they
oh.
could be
In-person
either,
or
I don't
live.
know. Are they I think they're in-person meetings, but
Sorry, that was
You
the,
didn't
that
say.
was my.
Yeah,
that was your question? Could
Yeah.
they be virtual or could they be in
Yeah.
person?
Combination, yeah.
yeah,
I can
I-
imagine you could also
Yeah.
do virtual, but he didn't
Okay.
say that specifically. We'll find out.
where they're back to back, it would be a hard end, right, at that
Right.
20-minute.
Right
But
time,
yeah.
and I thought they were virtual, but I might be misunderstanding. We can get some
Okay.
clarification. And then secondly, he wanted us to know that the Office of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning is inviting all the members of the community to a Caring for Your Mental Health presentation. And this will be held on October 11th at 7 o'clock in the mezzanine at St. Catherine's Church. Presenters for the evening will be our coordinator of community wellness, Sue Hanley, member of Westford's Community Behavioral Mental Health Committee, and Gerard Coughlin, the Director of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning. So all members of the community are welcome, and at the conclusion of their presentation, there will be time for questions and answers. And he wanted to give a big thank you, again, to Joanne Wall for coordinating the evening, and he looks forward to seeing everybody at St. Catherine's on October 11th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
That's it.
That is it.
Great, okay. School committee updates. Hold on, I'm looking this way.
Okay,
and then
well,
I'm-
I have one, but Sean raised his hand first, so I feel like that's not fair if Sean raised his hand.
No, please, please.
Mine is more like informational. I know in spring, when guidance came to present before us, they talked about the Bright program. And so there are, the legislature allocated for fiscal year '24, $10 million for Bright statewide, with 2.5 million of those dollars being to have Bright have a TA center for districts, but $7.5 million should be going out to the districts. They're trying to figure, it's recently been, it was allocated in this fiscal year through EOHHS. And so there's some discussion about when those funds will become available. So as I get more information, I'll let us know, because I know we have that, and we had talked about how staffing there. So these funds should be used to support both space and or staff.
Oh, cool, thank you. Sorry, Sean.
Thank you. Thursday night.
Everybody buzzers next time.
Yeah, right. Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Conference Room B, which is this conference room that we're in now, and it will also be held remotely, is the CPAC, which is Special Education Parent Advisory Council. Will be having its first meeting of the year. Mr. Coughlin will be joining us, and it should be great. There's a link circulating it, but of course, in person is encouraged. So.
Thank you. Anything else? Yep.
I also, another meeting happening tomorrow night again is the Town DEI Committee are meeting here as well. It's actually going to be their first time ever meeting in person, because they have always been virtual. So there will be a hybrid option as well to that, but it's 7 o'clock here tomorrow evening. And there was one other thing I just wanted to, I don't know if you had it planned, but I was able to attend the WEF, the Westford Education Foundation Westfest on Sunday. Kudos to Mr. Bill McDonald for stepping up this year and doing the pie in the face.
Still something.
No, I wanted more participants. Some of the principals and teachers had lines of students ready for them, and I felt underutilized. No, but it was really it was a terrific event. Just great booths. The food trucks were there.
Food trucks, yeah.
We weathered the little bit of rain that was there.
Yeah.
It was really awesome.
I mean, and it's a big event. I mean, it's all parent volunteer led and coordinated. So, you know, I think that, again, a reminder, if people don't know, all the money raised, WEF uses to support our teachers across all the schools in kind of mini grants for various programs or resources specifically to kind of try new things within their classrooms or for students. So it's a very worthwhile cause. So thank you to every parent who volunteered, who sits on the board, who just came and visited. I think it's a very worthwhile cause to support.
What kind of pie was it?
What kind of, just whipped cream.
Whipped cream on a paper
And a
plate. But the line
Metal.
of which to throw was neutralized, and it was just right in the
Yeah.
face. So, yeah,
The,
it was
the throwing is
Yeah.
subjective,
subjective. You're right.
depending on like the
Skill
age
level.
of the thrower.
Oh, I see.
It can be a
So-
slamming versus
it was-
a
So
throwing.
there are accommodations.
Yeah.
Yes.
I followed the rules.
Only had 20
Is
minutes.
Frisbee style frowned upon? I would imagine it would be. That sounds
Yeah,
dangerous.
good.
Great. Thank you. Anybody missing? Great. Okay, so tonight we have our student representatives joining us. So if you'd love to take a minute, I'd love for you to take a minute, introduce yourself, and any updates you have to share.
Not to put you on the spot.
Well, the updates is right.
My name's Alex Popelka. I'm a senior at WA, and I've gone to WA for all 4 years. I've been in Westford since I can remember. I'm part of student council, and I row crew, and I'm on the Alpine ski team, which I'm a captain of. I think student council is definitely a big part of my life at WA, and it really lets me be involved in a lot of the events that go on in the school and outside the school for the community.
My name is Maisha Khan. I'm a senior. I've also been at WA for all 4 years. I think this year would make my 10th year in Westford. I moved here when I was 8. I'm acting chairman for the student advisory committee because we don't have all our members yet, so we haven't officially voted chairman yet. I've been part of student advisory committee since I began at WA, so I've been here since I was a junior. I've also co-founded the South Asian Student Association at WA, and so these two things are probably the biggest parts of my life at WA, and so, you know, big thing with like throwing events and like holding club meetings and everything. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. You guys have any updates you want to share from WA?
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Do you want to start with?
Going back to like August, like the freshman activity fair was on August 29th, and then the senior barbecue was August 31st, and then the juniors also had a junior barbecue on September 14th.
Yeah, so counselors or guidance counselors are coming into senior English classes and really starting the college process with the seniors that are planning to go to college. And I think they've done a great job with helping us through that process. It's obviously not new to them, but new to all the seniors. And then through Student Council, we're planning 2 big events. One of them is Trunk or Treat, which is, this is going to be our 2nd year doing it.
Yes.
And it's basically a lot of WA clubs and sports teams and different organizations, different student organizations will set up their cars in the WA parking lot, kind of open their trunk, decorate their cars, and hand out candy, almost like trick-or-treating, to any elementary school or middle school age kids that want to come. The admission's free, and it's going to be on, pretty sure, October 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. It's going to be the Friday before Halloween. And also through Student Council, this is in a while, but the Holiday Bazaar is going to be December 3rd, and that's something that's been going on for 20 plus years. Lots of vendors for holiday gifts.
What day's homecoming?
Homecoming. I'm not sure on the date.
I think it's like
And then
October.
We're throwing 2 homecoming dances. I'm not sure the exact dates yet. It's going to be either the 2nd or 3rd week of October. And then Friday night is going to be a freshman sophomore dance, and then Saturday night is going to be a junior senior dance. We're doing this because last year we threw a dance for all 4 grades, but the capacity in the cafeteria is only 550, and with a school of over 1,000 kids, it was really tough because a lot of people didn't get tickets. They weren't early enough, so a lot of people weren't able to go. So now we're kind of splitting it up into 2 nights so more people have the chance to go.
That's great. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. And this is kind of a standing reminder, but we love your attendance, but feel free if you've got homework and busy night to stay as long as you want. And
Sounds good.
head home. Okay, we are on to business. A little out of time.
Hey, actually,
Oh, yeah.
I would just chime in also, since Alex is new. We encourage and welcome and love when you guys also chime in on our regular
Yes.
visits
Okay.
too. So like,
Sounds good.
I think we've set a precedent in the past few years of really active student voice
Yeah.
in this committee, and I mean that's why you're here. The updates are great,
Yeah, yeah.
but also we want to hear what
Okay.
how the students feel, and so
Yeah.
we're excited for that.
Great, thank you. So the first order of business tonight is the FY24 superintendent goals. We had an initial discussion on these on August 28th, so this would be the 2nd time around. I'll share that the superintendent evaluation subcommittee met in between those 2 meetings. We talked through some feedback and reflections from the initial discussion with the full committee. We made some tweaks, and Dr. Chu has made some updates. You can see highlighted in yellow in the packet. And if you want to just speak to those, and then we can take questions and discussion from the committee.
Sure. The conversation that we'd had at the last meeting really, I think, centered on the success criteria, and there wasn't any in the first draft of the goals. And so we went back as a subcommittee, and I tried to figure out what was the best way to articulate what the success criteria could look like. In some cases, it was taking a benchmark and moving it to the success criteria, and there were some adjustments like that. But I appreciate the conversation that we had. It's very helpful having the subcommittee. I think last year we were making progress. This year we're making more progress. So I think that's great. So I just want to thank Sean and Valerie and Chris for that as well too. But yeah, so the only additions there are really the success criteria, and they are highlighted in yellow for you. So I'm not sure if you have any questions. The goals themselves have stayed the same. The key actions have stayed the same. The benchmarks, for the most part, have stayed the same. Though really the only changes there were in goal number 2, and that's where we had taken some of what was benchmarks and moved them into success criteria. And then what I had as initial thoughts for success criteria, we decided were more benchmarks.
Yep. Any reaction reactions from the committee? Questions, discussion?
I think it looks great. I mean, I think, like last year was the first year we started kind of doing this, and I think, again, it's shaping it up really
Yeah.
nicely, so.
Yeah, I
Very
think-
much in line with our new policy.
Well, it was interesting, because I think as a subcommittee, what we were talking about a lot was what are the differences and what's that definition between a benchmark and a success criteria,
Yeah.
right? And actually, after our subcommittee meeting, so I apologize, but I was rereading District Goal 4
Mhm.
and was wondering whether the conduct a virtual webinar, if, like, and this, I'm not, doesn't matter to me either way, but like, when we were talking about, should that fall into sort of a success criteria? Or does it belong up in key actions? Like, I think one of the things that we're sort of really ironing out this year is what makes sense in each of these categories. And just upon reading them, I was like, oh, that feels more like, remember we had that that communication, we were talking about like how communication could be sort of a vehicle for a success indicator to show this is what we learned or this is the reflections. And so that spoke to me as communication. If no one has strong feelings about it, I'm fine leaving it where it is. It just caught my eye.
It is a good question, because it's like, as a key action, it's part of the plan.
Right.
If it happens, then is it part of the success criteria? You know what I mean? And then, because even the one above it, even the
Yes, right,
discussing the findings
yeah.
at the school SAC meetings, I think it's important that they're there.
Yeah.
Whether they're there I mean, that they're articulated, whether if they were success criteria, but they weren't a key action, I don't know.
And I think we can be flexible too. I think in a lot of the cases,
Yeah.
we were looking at communication pieces as part of the success criteria in cases where there wasn't a lot of visibility into
Sure.
some of the key actions, right? Like things were happening that we wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
but that were happening, and that, like, oh, a great way to help us determine how well this went is to hear in some way.
Right.
Whereas in this case, we're going to see it
Equity audit.
in
yeah.
other ways. So
Pretty visible. Yeah, you're right, because like, one thing we were talking about was like, what is observable? How will the district look different? So, I think, I'm fine with where it is. I just wanted to have that conversation. Any last bits, or looking for a motion to approve the proposed superintendent goals for the 2023-2024 school year?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Bill. And all those in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, great. So just so everybody knows too, the subcommittee plans to continue meeting, probably a November meeting, a December meeting, and then we'll be discussing how to do a mid-year review, and then what the spring will look like for the subcommittee. Did I miss anything there?
No, other than, the other thing that we had talked about even, and we started to do this in agenda setting, is
Oh,
putting,
yes. You may notice
putting
on tonight's
the,
agenda.
oh my, I can't think of the word. Well, not the goals, but we are,
Reference points.
reference points, yeah, we're citing,
Sure.
we're citing
Okay.
which part of the
Yeah.
strategic district improvement plan. We talked about that even with the school committee goals, and potentially even superintendent goals, if that is
Yep.
applicable to, like, to
Yes.
let people know ahead of time that
Right,
this is-
increasing the visibility
Yeah,
into
and
the
helps us
goals
track
and the
everything. Yeah.
process throughout the year, yeah. So, thank you for that, because you will notice on the next business item, after the topic, we put SDIP, and then which strategic initiative it sort of references. So we're gonna try to keep doing that to just give us a chance to stay on top of it.
Mhm.
So, next up is a general transportation update with information on the bus contract timeline, an update on the special education van lease, and a preview of the special town meeting warrant item.
Right, so we'll start with that.
Yeah. good.
So probably one of the important things we want to make sure everybody is aware of, that for the special town meeting on October 16th, there's a warrant article that is asking the the town voters to approve the school committee to enter into a 5-year contract with the bus company. We won't know what that contract is by October 16th. That won't have happened. But what we believe the process. What we want the process to be moving forward. It is not what has been done in the past, but we want the process to be moving forward. Is that there's language around contracts that say that if a municipality is entering into a contract for more than certain contracts for more than 3 years, that the governing body has to approve that. And so there's been questions as to whether the school committee is the governing body of the bus contract or whether it's the town voters. And so the town manager and I had talked about it, and she would like to move forward with having this on the town meeting warrant so that the town will allow the school committee to enter into potentially a 3-year contract with 2 extension years. What we'll communicate clearly to everybody is that that's the only thing the town is voting on. The school committee will still decide which contract they're engaging with and whether or not to exercise those extension years, which is what we've been doing historically. The school committee's had the ability to vote whether we're gonna do the extension year or not. But the whole timeline of that potential 5 years hasn't been brought forward to the town before. So that's really what the purpose of that warrant article is. We're in the process of getting the bid paperwork out there to get bids for our next contract. And we're working closely with Eric Heidemann, the assistant town manager, who's helping us with this process. And that won't have happened before town meeting.
Right.
So we prepared a bidding document for the bus contract, and Eric Heidemann, the assistant town manager, is just working on finalizing those insurance coverage for the bidding document, because we will need to decide the lower and the upper limit for our liability insurance, and also do we need umbrella liability insurance, because our insurance coverage is governed by the town side. So that's the final piece. Eric will working on the bidding document. So we currently have a placeholder on the special town meeting article. So there's a contract language and in the bidding document. So it's pending the special town meeting authorization for us to enter into 5 years contract.
Right. And so we are anticipating, we are anticipating that we will have our bus contract negotiated before we enter into the FY25 budget conversations.
Yes.
But we think it'll be close to that.
So I'm just curious, because in previous contracts, it's like 3 year plus 1 year extension, 1 year extension. I don't remember you ever actually gone to the town meeting or special town meeting. So what's the rationale behind it? And anything changed that it has to go through the special town meeting or go through town meeting?
It's like
So-
the interpretation.
It's the interpretation.
Depending on who interprets.
So there was a question as to whether it should have in the past. And we reached out to the Inspector General and talked to the Inspector General, and the Inspector General from the state of Massachusetts, who handles 30B procurement laws, told us that no, we were not under violation to not have our bus contract go through this process. Town council disagrees with that. And so town council has advised the town manager that this is the process we should go through, because in the Mass General Law, it states that regional districts, the school committee is the governing body. But the implication then is, since it only says that regional districts, the school committee is the governing body, that the implication is that since we're not a regional district, that whatever our governing body is, which is our town voters, needs to be the group that approves anything beyond the 5 years. I mean, anything beyond the 3 years. So
But-
I don't think there's a change. I think there's been an interpretation.
Yeah.
So
And
like,
so we're like, well, let's
But it
do it the right way.
It won't have any financials.
yeah, I
It's-
know, I
it's
know.
like
It's
a-
just like,
a
something like
checkbox.
the town voter may say, hey, why is this like
Right,
here, right?
yes.
That's
It's
why
like-
we have to explain it, though. We
Yeah.
have to explain that
Yeah.
you're giving the school committee the authority to potentially have 2 extension years. Because outside of that, they say, no, we just can't have extensions on the contract. And then it's a 3-year contract, and it
3 years,
stays
yep.
within the school committee. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the piece of it, is that it allows you to have these 2 extension years, which we've seen to be beneficial. But if the town voters don't approve that, then you just don't have the option for extensions.
Yeah, I think the town council has a different interpretation from the inspector general, right? So like, bring this up to the town voter may actually hurt us. It's like before, we can actually do 3 year plus 1 year per 1 year, but now like town voters say, hey,
Well,
why
they
not?
might, but we have to explain it appropriately, and I feel like it is just the way that the business is typically done, and it's the way that most everybody does do that. I think it's a relatively typical practice, for the bus companies to have these 2-year extensions.
Is that how like the other districts or other towns are doing that? Like if it's beyond 3 years, they ask town voters to actually to approve on town meeting?
I believe that there was, a range of responses to that question.
Yeah, I just feel like we're actually creating a problem for us. Because like if voters like, hey, we are wasting my like 15
I will say,
times.
unfortunately, at this moment in time, this isn't a decision for this committee to make.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I was just saying, I do understand that
Yeah.
feeling, like that we're seeding something that we hadn't in the past, and, you know,
Agreed.
It hits my ear with a similar kind of concern or whatever. Are we prepared to back up the idea that we have benefited from these extensions in the past? Like, will we be able to,
Show data.
yeah, show data and talk about that?
I think we will.
Okay. I'm not asking to do it right now.
That's a
Just-
good question.
It might be
I think
good
it would
to
make
be able to
sense,
explain
yeah.
why.
It'll be something Jenny and I'll have to look at, because it's not something that either one of us have experienced
Right,
or
right.
participated in. So it'll be us looking at data that we are gonna try to.
Well,
Yeah, sure.
and it's like, you know, we, in those moments, we're saying, we think extending this is better than current market conditions, but it's not like you go out to bid and renew, right? So it's kind of hypothetical.
It's hard to say, right? Because in the high inflation area, it may not be beneficial, right? In the low inflation area, you have contract and you extend.
Yeah.
But like with like 7-8% inflation, 5 years down the road, it may not, right? So it's very hard to say.
Yeah.
I-
Well, I
I-
think he was I meant in the past, right? It's hard to look back and say, did that extension, like, I don't know about the data.
In our most recent years, the extension, the language that was in the extension, we weren't held to. Like, we actually ended up, so we were able to save money.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know what we
Further,
really say,
yeah.
but with the extensions, by entering into an extension agreement with D, they didn't necessarily charge us what the actual language for the extension years of the contracts required.
right.
So it's gonna be hard to
Yeah.
determine.
A mini renegotiation for
A little
those
bit,
extension
little
years,
bit,
yeah.
so,
that we
you
do.
know, so that'll be hard, but, so there's that.
But I think it is important to know, because if you, as a special town meeting gets closer, and
Yes.
someone sees school bus transportation,
Yeah.
they might think that something's changing,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like, why is this coming? And they
Right.
might come to you with questions, so always, feel free to answer to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I'm just afraid like we got the adverse effect, which like then put us in the worst position. Then like if we don't do anything,
Right.
we continue the previous practice.
Right. We update on the special education van lease. We have been in communication after last meeting, it was last meeting, right? When you
Last
approved
meeting.
us to move forward to
Renew
renew the
three.
replace the wheelchair vans. Renew
Yeah.
leases,
Yes.
replace the wheelchair vans. One of the other action items was to see if it would be possible to move forward with bringing the purchase of 2 EV vans through the capital process. And so Valerie has she was able to contact the capital planning committee and the chair of the capital planning committee, and we have that mini presentation about that need on October 6th at our next capital planning meeting to see if they will approve putting it forward for the special town meeting. If not, it would be in our requests for the regular town meeting capital process as we go through the rest of the year.
Yep.
So another update for the special education lease van. So we are currently working with Merchant Fleet to replace 3 of those vans, and they have requested last 2 years financial statements and for the past 2 years, so they can renew the credit line for our account. That's standard procedure. They also reinstated that they need a clear plan for us to replace all the 18 special education vans, and when they can expect that to happen. And so we are planning to let them know our current plan in fiscal year 24 is renew 3 of the special education vans, and looking into purchasing 2 EVs. Hopefully in fiscal year 25, we can replace another 1/3 of our special education van, and in fiscal year 26 for the remaining 1/3. So, but we are uncertain how Merchant Fleet will respond to our plan. Another update is Sue Thomas approached to us to request for 2 EV quotes we already received back in May from Merchant Fleet Model Lease. So we also Eric Heidemann will look into other quotes from other Massachusetts state vendors. So if he has more quotes, he will communicate to us.
Great.
It does seem that Merchant Fleet is leveraging to do what you had mentioned in the previous meeting, which is to say, we want our vans back. And so we said, well, what they had communicated now is now we have inventory, and so now we want you to do that. So that's when I said, well, our plan will be over the next couple of years. And so that's what we're going to communicate to them to see if that is a sufficient response to them, or if they're going to show up with tow trucks.
Right, because we don't have any contract or any lease term in our.
They would have to come and take them, so at least there's
Well,
that, right?
yeah, I would hope they would give us a courtesy call.
I would like to think
So,
that they would too, but
yeah.
so we'll keep you informed of that.
Yep. Any questions, reactions? Okay, thank you. Keep us updated, and we have a meeting the week after that capital, so we can bring an update on that.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Jenny. Thanks, Jenny.
Hey, Jenny.
Okay, next order of business is a DEI update relating to STIP initiatives 1.1 and 2.4. Now I'm just gonna say them out loud.
Right?
And which ones are they?
1.1 and 2.4.
Right? You have them in your book too.
I do. Don't quiz me.
Did you want to talk about the meeting first?
I don't mind.
Yeah,
whichever.
would you please?
So we had our first meeting back on Thursday of the full group of or working group members, staff members. We also had in attendance Madonna McKenzie, who is our liaison from the town DEI meeting. And I know we have a student rep joining us as well, Ankit, hopefully once he's approved. And so this really was a kind of a check-in of, looking forward, focusing on the STIP and what kind of goals have come out of that, and really a chance for the group to kind of rethink maybe how we approach things, how we manage our meetings, how we can focus on our goals for the year, and what kind of action items they might be. And so we've, Dr. Chu had come up with the idea of kind of reorganizing slightly a little bit. So myself, Magali, and Dr. Chu are kind of co-chairing this group for the year ahead, and based on the kind of the goals that we you know, after a conversation that came up on Thursday, we are looking to kind of then create smaller working groups. Some will be building based, some may not, depending on what they're working on. That as the course of the year goes on, you know, sometimes we'll be meeting as smaller groups and other times we'll be meeting as a larger group, in a way to kind of make sure that, I suppose, a lot of the work and conversations we're having on a district level in our meetings is really kind of coming down into the building level and making impacts and changes, and also for information to go both ways. So some of the stuff that came up, you know, having looked at it, was obviously the equity audit is going to be the biggest task this year for the district, and currently I know Magali and Dr. Chu have been looking at
We have
three,
three proposals
yeah.
right now, and we're anticipating a fourth.
the fourth.
And we're gonna, we talked with members of the group to establishing that as one of the task force groups or the task groups to review those proposals and potentially come with a recommendation as to which group seems to meet our needs and our interests the most. That's one of the things.
Yeah.
And then you had talked about the handbooks, and we had talked about that as well too.
Well, it's on one of our SDIP goals, is that to look at handbook and kind of policy review, and I know our policy group is trying to take a DEI lens through our policies on a wider level, but I did raise it with the group on Thursday that maybe we could also look at it on our student and staff handbooks as well, to try and lighten the load a bit, because it's a pretty dense objective to have. One of the other goals that was kind of raised was really kind of talking about, and this really came from staff, and you know, which was nice to hear. There was a kind of a cohesive conversation about it, was regarding kind of you know, staff confidence in their training and kind of professional development around these issues, around having conversations, and so we kind of talked about that in a roundabout way of how does it look, you know, what kind of you know, issues could this look like, or way it comes up, and so we kind of discussed, you know, maybe having a group that might look at creating some sort of Google Forms or surveys or something. Again, this was all very high level, just top brainstorming session for the year, but to really look at how do we instill confidence in having all our staff in our buildings, you know, have these conversations or tackle situations when they come up, and also having that kind of cohesive messaging that, you know, what Miss Young is going to say in her classroom is the same as Mr. Sanders, or similar approaches. Yeah, that was kind of, you know, that was the main, one of the other issues that was just kind of shared as well, that maybe we could look at, and I shared as well that the Commission on Disability are also looking at it, is reviewing our playgrounds. We had one parent reach out to staff member to say that the new Robinson playground has been great for their child who has mobility issues, and that they would love to kind of see that across all the school playgrounds. So again, it's just something kind of on our radar, but I know the Commission on Disability had also raised it in their meeting recently. So,
And I know there's work beginning for the NAB playground,
yes.
so that's a good timing.
And our next meeting, we agreed at the end. So I think coming from that conversation, myself, Dr. Chu and Magali are going to meet to kind of really take these ideas and kind of put a bit more formality on them and a plan in place. And as an entire group, we're going to meet on October 19th, which is our next meeting, to see what the plan is on paper.
Thank you for that update. Sure, some comments?
Yeah, and again, I mean, if there's any committee members as well who have any thoughts, ideas, inputs, feedback, it's all welcome.
I feel like we've heard that thread of the difficult conversations, and that those supports for that, so that's really helpful to hear that captured there. I wonder how it will tie into the community circles at the middle school.
Mhm.
Right, that could be an initiative there.
With the restorative, yeah, we
Yeah.
did kind of touch on that into what kind of capacity, that kind of
Talked-
training.
A big part of the
Yeah.
conversation went back and forth between our desire and willingness to try to be doing proactive work
Mhm.
and still the need to have, an avenue for people to have reactive, where that, and so, because one of the things we talked about that, and we talked about the idea that, well, the focus for the professional development for the community circles is really much more about establishing the environment where multiple types of conversations
Yeah.
are taking place and not merely restorative
Mhm.
conversations, because that was one of the things that we had kind of talked about. And that's the challenge is that the group has grown so that there is representation from every single building, but it's also now so large that it can be difficult to get something done because there's so many different people involved. So breaking up to then have meetings where people are doing different work, and then we're coming together as a group to report back as to the work that's being done. And that also allows for the other challenge is the timing of the meetings. Last year we tried to do a couple of meetings we just did 2 different meetings. One for the 6 through 12 staff and one for the pre-K to 5 staff because of the hours. And then allowing, the parents to go to either one or both if they wanted to. And there was some success to that, but then that also then just means that everybody's having multiple meetings and having the same conversation twice in some cases. So that's when we said, well, maybe if we break up into smaller groups and the groups can then establish this is the best time for us to meet, And one of the things we did talk about and share was that even if we have building-based groups, that doesn't prohibit any of the community members from being a part of those.
Right.
And we had talked about whether they would be a part of a building-based group where they might have a connection, whether they have students in the building or not, or whether it was something that they're working on that they're passionate about. And we said, really would be open to all of those things. It's not about excluding anybody, it's about trying to focus on certain things and get some more momentum.
And actually, one of the other points that kind of came out of that, Magali kind of raised it, and I think it really resonated with Madonna from the town DEI, was like to make sure we really define what equity is so that we all have a very clear understanding of what that looks like, and short term, and to make sure that like we have that common language and terminology when using it. So yeah, I think it was an interesting meeting. Typically, as always, we could have kept going for another hour. It's the nature of the
And
topic.
it was already an hour, it was
an hour and a half.
3:30 to 5, so
Yeah.
it was already
Yeah.
scheduled to be longer.
Yeah. And we did it hybrid, actually. I think that it worked really well. So we had a number of staff members on screen here through Zoom, and then we had a number of people here. So I think the hybrid really worked
Yeah.
well, which was interesting to see. So
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for sharing your time for that, and the update. And just to reiterate what Catherine said, but, as the group sort of evolves, that if there are requests or areas to look at from the committee that you would like to see that this group take on, please reach out to Catherine or Dr. Chu, or me, and then I'll pass it on, but. Great.
We are way ahead of schedule,
Good job.
Record.
which is okay.
It's okay.
It is.
I mean, when you
okay.
pass,
Good.
when you
But
pass,
you
when
can
you
talk.
pass schedule.
Really slow.
I guess I
That's
was
what
expecting.
everybody right now is trying to speak
Talk.
a little bit slower, but it's okay.
There is no further business on tonight's agenda, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Catherine. And a second.
I'll second.
Nobody wanted to.
And all in favor of adjournment?
I don't want to say goodbye.
Thank you very much.
That was a record.
All right.